Good afternoon, Norman. Thanks for joining us.
Coming up, some residents of Highland Dairy will not settle for a city council decision when it comes to Highland Dairy.
In Norman Today's documentary on Norman law enforcement.
The winds are back out and blowing across the Oklahoma plains, and it'll be blowing through the weekend. There's also a chance of showers and storms. Details coming up.
And the OU men's basketball team gets some help in the backcourt.
News, weather, and sports.
All headed your way right now on Norman Today. Good afternoon, Norman. Thanks for joining us. I'm Denise Wood.
And I'm April Bryant. Two state representatives are making claims that University of Oklahoma contract proposal involves kickbacks. Representative Leonard Sullivan and Ray Vaughn accused OU President David Boring of having a contract plan that smacks of kickbacks. The contract proposal asked prospective vendor to state what dollar value would be associated with becoming a major supplier of copier services for the school. Boren said the lawmakers misunderstand the proposal and said the plan was an attempt to use good business practices to benefit the school. Boren said the proposal was poorly drafted and was wrong in suggesting his office would use funds above the basic contract amount. Representative Vaughn sent a letter to Attorney General Drew Edmondson to review the contract plan. And District Attorney's Office will file charges against University of Oklahoma lineman Steve Williams today. Assistant District Attorney R.B. Taylor said Williams will be charged with knowingly concealing stolen property, paraphernalia, and marijuana possession. Taylor said tailback Reggie Skinner passed a urine test and a polygraph. Skinner will not be charged. Williams and Skinner are being investigated by Norman police after the discovery of drugs and stolen property in their apartment. The police found marijuana, drug paraphernalia, prescription drugs that did not belong to either player, and a ring belonging to interim athletic director Larry Nafee.
A teenage girl is in Department of Human Services custody today after being charged yesterday with first-degree manslaughter. 16-year-old Loretta Davis is accused as an adult of striking Irene Hutchinson in the head at the Oklahoma Youth Center in February. Hutchinson attempted to restrain Davis when she was hit. Hutchinson died 2 days later as a result of her injury. City Clerk Mary Hatley will begin Monday counting and verifying more than 3,000 signatures opposing Highland Dairy's expansion plan. Norman residents opposing the plan called for an election that would allow residents to vote on the issue. The Norman City Council approved on March 24th a proposal to shut off Sam Street at Crawford with the retaining wall. It is up to the City Council to call the election.
The last 2 weeks of school are bearing down on University of Oklahoma students. Norman Today's Robert Grogan finds out how the pressure is affecting students.
With the spring 1998 semester coming to an end rapidly, many professors and students alike are preparing for crunch time.
Well, in art, for us there is, because we have our capstone coming up, so we were kind of expecting it.
Then I see it a little differently. I saw it as it was a sign at the beginning of the semester, and we've known all along what we're doing. So I don't see it as just the last 2 weeks, because we've known.
But it's all due now.
But it's all due. You're right, it's all due now.
While many students are preparing for graduation and life after graduation, many other students are struggling to get through the last 2 weeks of this semester.
Going on. Seems like everybody's not prepared. Professors aren't prepared until the very end, and they go, oh, okay, we got to fit everything in at the last. So.
Several thousand current OU students will not be here when the fall begins as they are graduating. However, many students will be coming back. How they spend their summers differs greatly.
Moving. Moving to?
Moving back to Tulsa. That's where I'm from. Live for free with my parents.
Or working or what?
We're actually doing a study abroad. We're going to go to Italy for 2 months.
Cool.
And study. So it's going to be fun. We're studying like art history and the
kind
Roman
of a vacation
art.
slash
yeah, kind of
education type
vacation
thing.
and
Time is of the essence for those of us who have not yet made post-school plans, for the spring of '98 is nearly history. Robert Grogan, Norman Today.
University of Oklahoma seniors graduate Saturday, May 9th at 10 a.m. at the OU Memorial Stadium.
The Political Communications Center at the University of Oklahoma is sponsoring a conference today. Politics as a Laughing Matter is occurring in the Oklahoma Memorial Union until 6 p.m. For more information on the conference, call 325-3114. Environmentalist leader Ralph Nader is the keynote speaker for this weekend's Our Earth Conference. Nader will speak Saturday at 8:30 at Holmberg Hall on the University of Oklahoma campus. The speech is free, and Nader will be speaking on corporatism, democracy, and the environment. Our Earth's two-day conference will focus on the global and national effects of corporations on the economy.
And coming up next on Norman Today,
our documentary about law enforcement in the city of Norman.
Stay with us.
Adventure training in the Army National Guard. When we move fast. When we train hard. If you're up to the challenge, we'll make it worth your while. Call 1-800-GO-GUARD.
This is David.
Oh, hi.
This is what David's done. David went to college. Sorry, Annapolis. David taught himself to play piano, the sax, even the bagpipes. Well, maybe not the bagpipes. David was NBA Rookie of the Year. He's also been to the Olympics twice. David even became a naval officer. David's sure done a lot. But you know one thing David's never done?
Drugs.
David doesn't do drugs. Maybe that's why he's done so much.
Welcome back. I'm Denise Wood.
And I'm April Bryant. Safety and security is an important issue for many residents in Norman. Norman goes behind the scenes of law enforcement. It's the third largest city in Oklahoma. There are an estimated 87,000 residents. But many times, large cities can easily be tied to crime. According to the 1996 index crime rate, 49.6 per thousand Cleveland County residents have been affected by some type of crime. However, the crime rate in Cleveland County is low compared to other places. Master Police Officer Jim Cossey says that the decreased rate of crime is due to the duties of a police officer.
Okay, our workday starts with a pre-shift briefing. We meet at the police department. We're giving information about what part of town to work, what car we'll be driving. We're giving information out about stolen vehicles, any burglaries that may have occurred in a particular area, so we know to patrol that area as much as possible. When we leave, we stay in a permanently assigned area. We call them beats. I work what we call Charlie Beat. I patrol that area. I know the residents, I know the business owners, I know some of the problems.
One convenience store cashier says that she's glad to see officers stop by her workplace.
Yeah, lots of OUPD. They come by a lot. We give them free fountain drinks, so it kind of works out well. They can stop by, grab a drink, and, you know, it's kind of nice to have policemen visible around. It kind of inhibits people from stealing.
The Norman Police Department patrols a large and extensive area covering far west and east Norman.
We go all the way out to 180th. And then this up here is almost up to Oklahoma City's 119th Street. So we cover a lot of square miles whenever we're patrolling. And of course, if we're up here and we have a call down here, we have to go up around the lake and come back down here. So we've tried to split north and south here on Alameda. One officer works this north area, one works the south area. So if there's a call, we can get there a little quicker.
In Norman, some of the more common crimes involve automobiles. The 1996 Oklahoma Index for Crime states that 513 vehicles were stolen in Cleveland County. Cossey says that there are different reasons as to why it is a popular crime.
Now, they're looking through cars, look inside, they see a purse, backpack, they may break into it. A lot of times they'll just look for a vehicle that's unlocked and just take whatever they can find on the inside that's of value to them.
But before anyone can be a part of law enforcement, it is important and necessary to go through a series of classes and training.
Well, the training is set up where we go through a classroom for 40 hours. Then we have self-defense, and then we go through the, we get OC spray. That's where we get what they so-called pepper spray. And so I haven't calculated all the hours, but it's a couple weeks training.
When an officer initially applies for the Norman Police Department, it is a fairly lengthy process. We have written exams that they have to take. We have a physical test that they have to take, and it's an obstacle course. Our current course is about a quarter-mile course. You have to run it within a certain amount of time.
Law enforcement officers say that it is important to be alert and aware of their surroundings. This motorist was pulled over for failing to come to a complete stop at a four-way stop sign.
It says other officers came by now. When I'm on traffic here, so we go by and check on each other just to make sure everything's okay on the traffic stops. I'll go up and get her to sign on the warning, and then I'll be right back.
We had one of the inmates try to attack one of the female guards.
Is she okay?
Yeah, it wasn't life-threatening. He was just questioning why people were making fun of him and stuff, but the way he approached her, it put her life in danger. And
residents think of Norman as being a safe community and a good place to raise a family.
I have never had contact with the police department, but I feel like it's a safe area. A lot of my family lives here, and we moved here from another state because we felt like it was a real nice city, and we feel like it's a safe city.
Do you consider Norman to be a pretty safe community?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. That's why I like living here, because I feel safe.
I love living in Oklahoma. My wife was born and raised in Bakersfield. She didn't have any idea what it was going to be like moving here, and now you couldn't drag her back. And this is just a great place to raise a family, good community, good schools, and a lot of good people here.
The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations reports that crimes have remained relatively stable between 1986 to 1996. April Bryant, Norman Today. There are approximately 285 men and women who work to protect the citizens of Cleveland County. However, more help is needed. If you are interested in a career of law enforcement, please contact your nearest law enforcement office.
Chris Huffer is in our weather center. Chris, it looks really nice outside. Do you have some good news for us?
Nice outside, Denise. The winds have come back in Oklahoma. You know, earlier in the week we had some cool conditions, but the temperatures are continuing to modify and will continue to warm up and will continue over into the weekend and a slight chance of rain. We'll have details coming up.
It's only a little motor oil.
What difference is one drop of paint going to make?
This much fertilizer isn't going to pollute anything.
You're looking at a sea of excuses, created drop by people like you and me. Our waters can be saved if each of us does their part. Drop by drop. If we all do a little, we can do a lot. Brought to you by the Natural Resources Defense Council, the EPA, and the Ad Councils of the U.S. and Japan.
Hands need hands to help you see what lies ahead, what you want to be. Hands need hands, a hand to reach.
Kids today need extra help to stay in school. Communities and Schools brings hands in need together with hands that can help.
When the heavens thunder, when the nation calls, you can make a difference and be a part of it all.
Find yourself in the Army National Guard, serving 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year, and you'll find an extra paycheck, money for college, and all the adventure you can handle. Call 1-800-GO-GUARD.
In the Army National Guard, you can.
Chris, it's a little bit windy outside, but how's the weather going to turn out for us?
Well, you're right, it is windy. It looks like it's going to be a windy afternoon. It'll be even a little more windy on Saturday and Sunday, but then there'll be a chance of rain. But outside right now, we have a few clouds passing by, and it's mild. Temperatures around 68, but as I mentioned, there's a few clouds passing by, and the winds are about 10 to 20 miles an hour outside. As we look at our current conditions outside, we have a temperature of 68 degrees, and the relative humidity is 49%, and the pressure is 29.86, and it is falling. So that is, as the next storm system comes across, and the winds are out of the southeast at 22 miles per hour, so it is getting to be rather windy outside. Finally, we got above normal for a change. Yesterday's high temperature was 75, after our normal average is 74, and our record is 89. And on the low end, we had a low temperature of 52, and normally we have a temperature of 42, and the record is 35. And as we look at the current conditions across the United States, you can see along the East Coast, it is a little bit cooler as this result of this low pressure continues to track off to the northeast. And there's a high pressure, so we got northerly winds blowing in and bringing in those folks some cooler temperatures, and it's relatively mild down into Florida. Out to the west for us, however, this is our next low pressure, and it's bringing some scattered showers in the mountains and a little bit of rain to the northwest. And we have our dry line out to the west, and that is increasing our winds, and it'll be windy all across Oklahoma, Texas, up into Kansas along this warm front as it continues to propagate up to the north. Temperatures across the United States are mild. Out to the west, we got temperatures into the 50s and 60s in the higher elevations. This is the cooler temperatures associated with that rain, and it'll be out California be into the 60s and 70s. And along the east, we'll have temperatures into the cooler 40s and 50s as a result of the north winds, and down into Florida be into the 70s and 80s. Across Oklahoma, we'll have temperatures warming up to the 90s. We got some 90s moving in, so that looks pretty nice as we get into mid to late spring. And across Oklahoma, we'll have temperatures into the 80s. Now, if we look at Oklahoma highs, we'll have temperatures generally in the 80s across the state, a little warmer to the west with 86 at Gage, 87 at Guyman, and we have 82 at Ponca City. Norman will have 82, Ardmore will be 83, Tulsa will have a temperature of 81, and McAllister will have a temperature of 82, and it will be rather windy outside out of the southeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour, excuse me, I should say 15 to 25 miles per hour with higher gusts. Overnight, temperatures will cool off into the 50s as a result of this warm air continues to move up from the Gulf of Mexico. We'll have a temperature of 57 and 60 at McAllister. Out to the west, we'll have a temperature of 58 at Gage and be a little cooler at Guyman. Temperature will be at 56 degrees, but the winds will stay up about 10 to 15 miles an hour. Specifically for Norman, we will have sunshine. It'll be warm and windy. We'll have a high temperature of 82 degrees. Winds will be out of the southeast at 15 to 25 miles per hour. Overnight, we'll be clear and mild. It'll be a little breezy. South-southwest winds at 10 to 20 miles an hour. As we look at our extended forecast, later in the week, looks like it'll be good conditions. We warm up, but over the weekend, we have a chance of showers and storms. We're going to say there's about a 30% chance on Sunday, but there will be a chance of rain late on Saturday. We'll have a temperature of 80 degrees and just a 20% on Monday. But then we look like we'll dry out and warm up and have good conditions coming up next week.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And coming up on Norman Today Sports,
the Oklahoma tennis teams are in Nebraska for the Big 12 tournament. Chris Fitzpatrick will have details next.
Stay with us.
My son Daku was riding a motorcycle when he was struck by a car. I had spoken to him previously about donating his organs, and it made it so much easier for me to make the decision. I knew that this is something that he wanted. I didn't have to feel guilty about making the decisions, doing something that he may not have wanted. Every day I tell people, talk it over. You must let people know what you want.
United States Coast Guard. Jobs that matter.
Jobs that matter.
I need to get her shoulder up.
So, Chris, you know, it's not basketball season, but I've heard they've been making some headlines lately.
Yeah, the Oklahoma basketball team needs a little help at point guard, or at guard, shooting guard, because they lost Corey Brewer last season to graduation. And on Thursday, the Oklahoma men's basketball team added a new face to their roster. Coach Kelvin Sampson announced yesterday that shooting guard Kelly Newton signed with the Sooners. The 6'2", 190-pound guard is from Neosho Community College in Kansas. Last season, Newton scored 17.7 points a game while averaging 4.3 assists and 3.9 rebounds for the season. Coach Sampson said that Newton is a tremendous three-point shooter that understands the game very well, and he looks forward to coaching him. Newton is the fourth signee at OU. He joins junior college second-team All-Americans Victor Avila at center and swingman Nolan Johnson. Guard J.R. Raymond also signed with the Sooners as well. And the Big 12 tennis tournaments are underway, and the Sooners are looking good. At the women's tournament in Lincoln, Nebraska, the OU team defeated the Iowa State Cyclones to advance to the second round. The Sooners won all 5 matches. Kate Dunleavy was impressive in beating Mary Ramboya. Dunleavy didn't give up game-winning. She didn't give up a game. She won 6-love, 6-love. And Oklahoma and Colorado are playing right now in second round. And the men's team defeated the Missouri Tigers yesterday in first round of the men's tournament, which is also being played in Lincoln. Like the women, the men didn't allow the Tigers to win a match, winning the duel 4-0. OU won the doubles point and won 3 singles matches to advance to the second round, and the men went up against number 2 seed Texas A&M. That began earlier this morning. After taking 2 of 3 games from the Missouri Tigers, the Oklahoma baseball team travels to Lubbock to meet the 21st ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders. The last time these two teams met, OU won the first Big 12 conference tournament, beating the Red Raiders 19-17. 3-game series begins tonight at 7 o'clock. Saturday's game is at 2, and Sunday's game has been changed to 1 o'clock. And in high school baseball, both Norman teams hit the diamond on Thursday. The Norman Tigers hosted a doubleheader against Mustang and Putnam City at the one and only Tiger Stadium. In the first game, the Tigers fell to the Broncos of Mustang by a 13-5 count. Evan Anderson suffered the loss on the afternoon as the pitching staff yielded 12 hits. Justin Carroll had a couple of hits in a losing cause, but the Tigers redeemed themselves in the nightcap against the Putnam City Pirates. Norman crossed the plate 13 times and pounded out 12 hits for a 13-5 rout. Junior pitcher David Thurman picks up the victory for the Tigers, and at the plate, Norman's Clint Dunbar went 2 for 3 with a double, and Jeremy Foster does the damage as well with a 3 for 4 evening with the aluminum. Norman is in action tonight at home against Edmond North. Action gets underway at 6 o'clock in Tiger Stadium, and the team will be in Yukon for a tournament tomorrow afternoon. Norman North is also at home tonight against Westmore High School. That game also begins at 6 o'clock in Reese Park in Norman. And the OU softball team is at home this weekend at the recently dedicated softball complex. The Cornhuskers of Nebraska came to town for a doubleheader with the Sooners. They'll be in action. The first game is Saturday at noon, and game number 2 will be at 2 p.m. And in high school soccer, Norman North and Norman are both in action. The Timberwolves are headed to Edmond Santa Fe to play the Wolves. Boys kick off at 6 o'clock, girls at 8. And the Norman Tigers are at home for senior night this evening. They play the Putnam City Pirates. And as usual, boys at 6 and girls begin at 8 o'clock. And also, the OU Men's Soccer Club is in Wichita this weekend. They play Barclay College in their first of 3 games on Saturday. Andrew Gibson will be in action for that.
Boy, it's a busy weekend in sports.
Yeah, definitely. And on a side note, I had to get this in. My Spare Tires intramural softball team was flattened yesterday. We lost 5-4.
Oh,
so,
no.
And Norm today, news Russ Calvin, photographer, he moved on. They beat us. So he has bragging rights for Norman Today Sports. So.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Coming up next on Norman Today.
A man lately surrounded by much controversy is dead today.
Stay with us.
Last year, over 1 million children came face to face with child abuse. But this year, there's a program that can help stop the abuse before it starts. A program that reaches out to new parents, that teaches them how to cope with the stresses that lead to abuse. But we need your help where you live, because without it, many of the children born today will become victims of abuse tomorrow. Call 1-800-CHILDREN. The more you help, the less they hurt.
It is a test, not just of strength, but of the power of the mind. And if you complete the journey, you will be changed forever. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Morning, Fred. Morning, George. Good morning, Mrs. Applewhite. Lyle.
Good morning, George.
Forgetting things?
Good morning.
Morning, George.
Remember this. Forgetfulness may not be what you think.
Cool out, isn't it?
Why, yes, it is.
Find out more. For a free booklet, call 1-800-438-4380.
Welcome back once again, Norman. I'm Denise Wood.
And I'm April Bryant. A man who admitted assassinating Martin Luther King Jr., James Earl Ray, is dead. The 70-year-old Ray was taken from prison to a Nashville hospital Monday. He suffered cirrhosis of the liver. After first admitting he shot and killed King, Ray recanted, claiming the slaying was a conspiracy. The King family joined Ray in seeking a trial and said they were saddened at the news of his death.
18 months in jail didn't persuade Susan McDougal to change her mind. As she arrived at a federal courthouse in Little Rock, Arkansas, Thursday morning, she told reporters, "I won't talk." McDougal was called to testify before the Whitewater grand jury. She refused to answer questions during an earlier appearance and went to jail. Prosecutors say they'll seek more serious charges against her if she keeps her promise not to testify today.
And coming up on our final segment of Norman Today,
you may now be able to smell your way to a slimmer figure.
Stay with us.
This is who I am.
I am rich. I am poor.
I am a girl.
I am a boy.
I
am from the city.
I am from the country.
I know exactly what I want to do.
Who I want to be. I have no idea.
What I want to do. Who I want to be.
No matter who you are or where you're from, the United States Air Force may be the place for you to learn, to grow, and to be successful in life.
I have potential.
My future is unlimited. I am somebody.
It's only a little motor oil.
What difference is one drop of paint going to make?
This much fertilizer isn't going to pollute anything.
You're looking at a sea of excuses, created drop by people like you and me. Our waters can be saved if each of us does their part. Drop by drop. If we all do a little, we can do a lot. Brought to you by the Natural Resources Defense Council, the EPA, and the Ad Councils of the U.S. and Japan.
What if, before every meal or whenever a craving hits, you could just reach for a pen and write off those cravings?
Now, before you start sniffing your Bic, this diet requires Slim Scents pen. They come in 3 scents.
Banana, peppermint, and green apple Slim Scents have actually been proven to help you lose weight, although mainstream dietitians stress diet and exercise.
Slim Scents fool the brain into making you feel like you're full, or as one woman put it, if you work in a bakery, you don't eat cookies.
So the weather's looking good for us, huh?
It'll be warm, windy, and mild, so it'll look like it'll be a good weekend. Chance of rain on Sunday.
5.
Oh, I guess we can see our 5-day forecast. We have a Sunday will be about a 30% chance of showers, and on Monday will be about a 20%. But then onto the weekend, we'll have a temperature of 76 and 77, so it should warm right back up after having a chance of rain over the weekend.
And we obviously have good weather for sports also.
Yeah, senior night tonight. Norman High soccer team will be out there in action, as well as both Norman North baseball team and the Norman High baseball team will be there as well. And so good luck to those teams.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Have a great weekend.